Hi, it's Washington State Republican Party Chairman Jim Walsh here for our regular weekly Chairman's Update. This week we're going to talk about an issue that certainly has been in the news, and that is immigration policy, immigration reform. Back in DC right now, they're in the middle of a big back and forth around a proposal uh, to reform immigration policy. Here in Washington, the news recently broke that the state has been giving away hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to illegal immigrants here in Washington. And all around the state, people want to talk about this issue. People are concerned about immigration and where the country is and where the state of Washington is in terms of dealing with immigration policy and the humans that arrive because of our immigration policy. I'll start by saying that immigration is, of course, primarily a federal issue. So it's our Congress back in DC that is directly responsible for setting immigration policy. Right now, the bill that is kind of a political football between the US Senate and the US Congress would make some good reforms to what is effectively an open border now on the southern border of the United States. But it also adds some elements that are not so good. And I think there's a lot of political posing going on and a lot of chess being played back in DC over this particular current proposal. But let's say the following. Over the last several years, our country has had a non-existent immigration policy. We have effectively had open borders, and millions of people have come into this country without documentation, not legally, and taken residence here. The federal government and the state of Washington have tried to help these people with money, with services, with resources, but the efforts have been very badly organized, very badly executed. And that's breeding a lot of frustration among everyone. And this is one of those issues that is not Republican or Democrat. Here in Washington, I've heard from people all over the political spectrum. I've heard from people all over demographic quadrants saying that they don't like what's going on. They don't like how it's going. And this is not a frustration that's against immigrants. This country was built on immigrants, and we want to see a coherent immigration policy in DC and at the state level, as is appropriate, the state's response to immigration policy. Right now, we don't have that. At the federal level, immigration policy is, as I've said, basically non-existent. And here at the state level, our part of it, which is the smaller part, is a mess. We have several state agencies, one in particular, the Office of Refugee and Immigrant Administration, ORIA it's called. It's part of the state's Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS, is trying to help immigrants who are here, but really operating in a vacuum as far as law and policy goes. And in that vacuum, ending up pushing political agendas where it's trying to get around limits that come in federal law on how we can assist immigrants and blurring the distinction between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. And there is a difference there. And you can say that without being anti-immigrant. There's a legal process for coming into the United States, and then there's an illegal process. In all this chaos and confusion and lack of any order, the distinction between legal and illegal immigration has been blurred. It doesn't exist much anymore. You hear some people pushing political agendas don't even use the term legal or illegal. They just say migrants, as if there's no difference, but there is. At the Republican Party, we welcome legal immigration. We appreciate the history in this state and this country of immigrants building America and building Washington. What we want to see is a coherent and rational process for bringing people into our country legally. Now, this could be an immigrant visa program. We have the H-2A program for agricultural workers. We have an analogous program for tech workers. We'd even like to see a return to the old guest worker or bracero program, which was a very generous plan where people could come from other countries, come to the United States, work on a temporary basis, and then go home. We are open to rational immigration policy here, but right now there's a vacuum in DC, and then here in Washington there's a mess of not well coordinated efforts at helping people. We need to clean up our own house and not give $340 million or more away to illegal immigrants exactly because federal government won't do that. We need to coordinate better. We need to sync better with a coherent immigration policy. Right now, we're not doing that, and that's a failure of public policy. We need to do better here in Washington, and they need to do better in DC. The Washington Republican Party is committed to real immigration reform, and later this week, we're going to release our white paper, our plan for what it means to have real immigration reform and a coherent, rational immigration system. We want this, we need this. This is a unifying issue. And we have to be brave enough as people involved in public policy to speak the truth about immigration reform and make it happen. That's it for this week. I look forward to speaking with you again in a little while. In the meantime, be strong and be well.